The zero-sidepod concept, which sparked so much curiosity early in the 2022 season, was an independent venture by the Mercedes Formula One team. And as we can all conclude right now, it wasn't the best concept to race with. Let's dive in and find out what Mercedes' upcoming big plans are regarding the W14 in 2023. Do you think Mercedes will change up their design for the W14? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But as the team's final improvement for this year's troublesome W13 debuts at the United States Grand Prix this weekend, the question remains: will Mercedes ditch the design it's been alone in pursuing this year and follow the trend for wider side pods that everyone else either started with or drifted towards during the first year of F1's new rules? On that front, the team is trying to avoid giving away too much, but the hints are increasing. When Mercedes' highly upgraded car arrived in Bahrain for the second pre-season test, it caught everyone's attention since it appeared as though the team had neglected to attach the side pods. Given that it allowed more air to flow down the side of the car and inside the rear wheels into the Coke bottle area, this appeared to be the most recent development in the size zero packaging that had become a popular trend for F1 designers to seek over previous 10 years. For the start of the new regulations in 2022, Mercedes had taken that to the next level, and crucially, had discovered a way to circumvent the limitations on the shrinking of the front of the side pods, with a deft interruption of how the required side impact structures had to be incorporated into the car. On F1's own podcast, technical director Mike Elliott recently acknowledged that after Mercedes found this loophole, another group in the design team worked on it to see if they could shoot it down. This is a common practice within the team whenever a new idea is discovered, with the group trying to sense-check the idea, generally run by our chief designer. Mercedes had to present the sidepod proposal to the FIA after deciding to pursue it. Elliott claimed that the governing body's initial response was along the lines of, "That's not what we intended." But after the FIA's technical division closely examined the design to determine whether it could be legally challenged, the design was deemed legal. Mercedes spent the winter thinking, has anybody else spotted it? Is someone else going to turn up with it, according to Elliott? But perhaps he didn't have to worry all along. Rather from seeming like a badge of honor for the Mercedes design team to have outwitted one of F1's finest technical minds ever, perhaps it should have raised red flags when Red Bull design mastermind Adrian Newey told the race that he didn't see the Mercedes sidepod solution coming. And those alarms ought to have continued to sound. Williams and McLaren were the only other teams on the grid to initially reject the larger, longer side pods that resurfaced this year. And during this season, both have released upgrades that have given up on the leaner designs in favor of a bulkier look. Teams who began the year with various approaches to the larger side pods have also made more noteworthy advancements in this area, while maintaining the basic idea. Therefore, it doesn't seem probable that everyone is simply keeping quiet about their top-secret zero side pods for 2023. Even if other teams couldn't replicate the Mercedes design until next year due to basic car layout issues, they wouldn't have spent as much effort into developing the larger side pods if they were going to discard them next year. If no other team believes the slender side pods are worth doing, when does Mercedes have to question itself if it's being incredibly clever or really naive to continue down a different road on its own? Elliott also mentioned that he can pinpoint the precise time in the late 2021 car design process when Mercedes made a mistake during his recent participation on F1's Beyond the Grid podcast. He wouldn't go into any detail about what the error was, but he claimed it was to blame for Mercedes' underwhelming performance in 2022 and the inconsistent performance we've seen on various types of tracks this year, which Mercedes has characterized as mood swings. According to the information we've learnt about this error, it appears that Mercedes had a choice to make on the direction of its development when working on the W13. It went one way, but now realizes that going the other route would have been far better. All we know about that choice is that it had nothing to do with the car's structural integrity and everything to do with aerodynamics. Elliott will only publicly admit that Mercedes had known about it for a while and that the company has spent the most of this year trying to fix the mistake and repair the harm it created. The intense porpoising issue Mercedes experienced earlier this year severely hampered that process. The team had to commit so much time and energy to resolving that serious problem that it was unable to spend as much time in the beginning of the year addressing the underlying issues that were limiting the car's performance. Mercedes' calculations throughout the process were predicting that if it could straighten out the porpoising, its car might be considerably faster than Ferrari and Red Bull. Due to this, the team found it extremely difficult to let go of the decisions it had taken with the W13. Mercedes was duped into believing it had achieved a significant advancement after a competitive Spanish Grand Prix weekend with a significant improvement package. The team didn't become aware of how seriously things had gone wrong until June. The harm was already done by that point. It was becoming increasingly acknowledged that it was unlikely that the car's flaws would be totally fixed this year. Mercedes won't be able to properly fix it for the 2023 model until the winter, according to Elliott. Whatever the issue, the 2022 car is designed to address at least a portion of it, perhaps something like the side pods. According to what we understand, it's not quite that simple. The qualities of the car that are connected to the narrow side pods, however, may be an issue, according to the hints F1 journalists have discovered. The exposed floor is one of the major issues that Mercedes have been unable to resolve with this car. It may behave like a cantilever since there's so much of the floor that's unsupported and protrudes from the side of the vehicle. This has an impact on how the floor moves and behaves, which has an impact on how air is fed under the car at the throat of the floor. This is important because of the ground effect laws in 2022. It will lose a lot of performance if this airflow stalls, which we believe may happen on the Mercedes. We also know that Mercedes committed to a rear suspension design that was built around maximizing the use of this floor concept. With such a crucial component on the car's mechanical platform locked in, this may be the main issue that Mercedes won't be able to address it until next year. This, and the manner in which the team packaged the interior of its car to achieve the size 0 design, may have been constraints that prevented Mercedes from implementing bigger side pods in the same way that McLaren and Williams have. To be clear, none of this is intended to imply that Mercedes would have been better off using the larger launch spec side pods that it used at the first test in the Barcelona this year. We trust the team when they claim that the more condensed specification is superior to the initial draft we saw, because they were simply an unfinished version of what it now contains. Mercedes has pinpointed publicly the entire year that its side pods are a red herring when trying to pinpoint the reason for its decline in form. The team is still of the opinion that other components of the car are responsible for the performance it's lacking this year, and that the side pods have little potential to improve or lose performance. Elliott thinks that assertions that Mercedes' car must operate differently since it's so dissimilar from everyone else's are unfounded. Mercedes maintains that the side pod concept no one else has followed is improving performance, and does not view it as a massive departure from what everyone else is doing. Nevertheless, performance, albeit barely. When you look at the side pod, people say it looks very different. That must work completely different to the rest of the cars. And it doesn't. It's just a slightly different solution, said Elliott. Aerodynamically, I don't think it's a massive departure from the other cars. It's just something that adds a little bit of performance for us. But is there more performance to be had by following the crowd, especially in reworking the W13's other performance-limiting elements to better suit that notion for the W14 the following year? Elliott claims that running concurrent development programs on both routes would be the only way for Mercedes to receive that response. The F1 budget cap may prevent that from happening, or Mercedes may have already done so behind the scenes and is keeping it a secret, in which case it would be totally understandable. Mercedes is still adamant that the side pods are not a game changer, and Elliott is adamant that the solution to the team's issues has less to do with the design of the car and more to do with how it handles its development. From what we can tell, Mercedes is actually considering using larger side pods in 2023. There are no sacred cows on that team, so we can assume that pride or the desire to stand out won't get in the way of the side pods changing if necessary. The troublesome 2022 Mercedes will almost probably be replaced by a better model in 2023, and whether by coincidence or not, we have a strong suspicion that it will also appear quite different from the outside. The 2023 Mercedes might arrive in Bahrain for pre-season testing with side pods that bring it into line with the rest of the grid, and this year's ultra-slim design could be relegated to the scrap heap as the next clever technical innovation that didn't pan out, according to the hints we've seen. That's all for today's video. With what kind of design would you like to see Mercedes rock up in 2023? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the content and want to see more of our F1 content.